The iPhone 16e is now technically Apple's most affordable iPhone, but it's also 40% more expensive than the previous iPhone SE. So for $599 US, we get the latest A18 chip, a 6.1-inch OLED display, a single 48 megapixel camera, and a tiny 128 gigabytes of internal storage. As a smartphone, I think the value of this phone is debatable, and it's in a bit of a weird position in the iPhone lineup. But ironically, if we look at it as a dumb phone, the 16e becomes more interesting. Hey friends, Andrew here, hope you're well. I'm going to approach this review slightly differently. I've set this iPhone 16e up as a dumb phone, and I'll share my experience with this phone while reviewing everything new to the 16e. But first, for the uninitiated, you may wonder, what is a dumb phone? So let me explain. Dumb phones are a sort of anti-movement against smartphones. Think, candy bar phones like this one here that your grandma might use to make calls and maybe text with a single finger. So the dumb phone movement has gained a ton of popularity because, let's face it, we're all glued to our screens. So dumb phones bring phones back to basics, and last year I switched to a $90 dumb phone, used it for a couple of months, loved it, and it seems that video resonated with a lot of you. But after months of using that phone, I had no choice but to switch back to a smartphone because modern life is so centered around our smartphones, from QR codes to digital boarding passes and concert tickets. So I thought, hey, wait a minute, the new iPhone 16e could technically be a great dumb phone with the best of both worlds. It's simple and affordable enough to be stripped bare, yet has all the bells and whistles to still scan QR codes and use Apple Wallet, for example. And that's exactly what I've done. I've set this phone up with limited functionality, and it's proved to be a really great dumb phone, and here's why. So after unboxing the iPhone 16e, the way I set up the phone was really intentional. So I've got a single page blank home screen with the absolute essentials: messaging, phone calls, maps, WhatsApp, the Wallet app, and Tesla app in the background. No social media, no email apps or even banking apps. The whole point is to have a reliable phone with a long battery life and force down my daily screen time. I've also gone into my notifications and privacy settings and basically deactivated everything except location services. Sometimes less is more. Moving on to its design, the 16e resembles an iPhone 14 and is a touch lighter than the iPhone 16. In matte black, it's minimal and clean, but I did wish it came in a smaller form factor like the iPhone 13 mini's 5.4-inch size. The 6.1-inch display here though features the classic notch, has 457 pixels per inch, operates at 800 nits peaking at 1200 nits brightness, and is overall perfectly fine and usable day to day. Now this display only has 60 Hz refresh rate, which might raise a few eyebrows, but Apple has to, differentiate their other phones somehow. But if you're looking to decrease screen time or just use this as a secondary business phone, for example, 60 Hz refresh rate shouldn't be a deal breaker. Other than that, the 16e comes with the action button, Face ID for quick unlock, and a USB-C port. It only supports USB 2 speeds, which is 480 megabits per second. But when I am charging it on the go, I use the wireless Anker MagGo power bank, and Anker is kindly sponsoring this segment of the video. This convenient palm-sized power bank is a 3-in-1 solution with an Apple Watch charger, 30-watt USB-C port, and built-in USB-C cable that doubles as a sturdy carry cable when not in use. There's surprisingly a flippable smart display that turns on by pressing a button or opening the watch stand for a view of all the input, output, and charge info. It's an Apple MFW certified charger too, which stands for Made for Apple Watch, and it means this power bank charges your Apple Watch or AirPods just as fast as Apple's original chargers. This charger also holds a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, so considering most smartphones these days have an average battery capacity of 3,000 milliamp hour, the MagGo power bank here should recharge most smartphones twice over. That's pretty solid for such a small yet well-built power bank. It's literally smaller than Apple's Magic Mouse. So yeah, this is an ultra portable and convenient power bank to charge all sorts of devices and take with you just about anywhere. If you're interested in grabbing one of these for yourself, you can check out the latest offer on the Anker 10K power bank in the description box below. Let's move on to performance. Surprisingly, this phone gets the latest A18 chip, but it's slightly nerfed with one less GPU core than the iPhone 16. So that actually translates to less of a power draw and so better battery efficiency. And I'll talk about my experience with battery life in a moment. It's also equipped with 8 GB of RAM rather than 6 GB that I was expecting for the entry-level iPhone. So at 8 GB RAM, it's on par with the iPhone 16. On Geekbench 6, it scored 2,971 single core and 5,227 multi-core. For comparison's sake, and super interesting actually, the iPhone 16 scored lower on the single core test at 2,969, but significantly higher on the multi-core score of 7,352. But since the 16E has one less GPU core, it's not surprising that it scores 21,822 against the iPhone 16's 27,938, which is a 22% increase in GPU performance, which from a numbers perspective checks out since the 16E has 4 out of the 5 GPU cores in the iPhone 16. So if you're planning to use the 16E as a normal smartphone, you'll be able to run most apps on this phone outside of highly intensive apps like Filmic Pro and games like Genshin Impact. What Apple has done is it said bye to Qualcomm modems and created a custom cellular modem which gets reliable 5G connectivity more efficiently with less power draw, and that's important because it boosts overall battery life. So speaking of battery life, it's really good and actually where this phone absolutely shines. It sports a big 3,961 milliamp hour battery, which is surprisingly bigger than the iPhone 16. So this means that the 16E has the longest battery life of any 6.1-inch iPhone actually. I've been getting over 1 day battery life with this phone, so over 14 to 16 hours of use, but granted, I have been using this phone as a dumb phone, so naturally battery life will be drawn out. So if you use it as intended, your battery life mileage will vary. It'll probably look more like 12 hours of regular use, but yeah, a better battery life is genuinely a quality of life improvement, and for the purposes of a dumb phone, a long battery life is probably the most important feature, and this phone delivers on that front. Moving to the camera, it has a single 48 megapixel wide lens, though with a slightly smaller sensor than the iPhone 16. It's usable and stacks up well against the iPhone 16's wide lens, but yeah, this phone misses out on an ultra wide and macro lens. There are also a lot of features that Apple cut out, like photographic styles. There's no portrait focus editing available and no cinematic mode and action mode from what I can see. But for the purpose of snapping a casual photo to send to a friend, scanning a note or a QR code at a restaurant, or just documenting a video memory, yeah, this camera is perfectly fine. If we're going to be a bit more critical about this phone, there are a few things that disappoint. Firstly, there's no MagSafe or Qi 2 charging on the 16E. I thought it makes sense for Apple to make MagSafe a universal Apple standard, so you can slap any iPhone onto a MagSafe charger for convenience, but nope, that's not the case. This also means no pretty standby mode on docks. Then there's the lack of UWB or ultra wideband, which means some features like accurately locating AirTags, AirPods, or quick pairing with a HomePod, for example, aren't available here. The other disappointing thing is the base 128 gigabytes it comes with, which is such a stretch in this day and age. After installing iOS and setting up a few apps, you're left with little to no storage. So forget about storing any photos and videos without an iCloud storage subscription. And that's probably the biggest kicker, the increased price tag. So it's in a bit of a weird price point where it is a premium over the outgoing iPhone SE, yet for only $200 extra, you can get a fully fledged, non-watered down iPhone 16. But going back to using the 16E as a dumb phone, it was a surprisingly refreshing and enjoyable experience, and one that I think that I'm going to continue to use and implement throughout my day. It's a solid $599 phone with a terrific battery life, and after stripping it bare, I am left with a distraction-free phone with all the digital detox benefits without being left behind in the modern world. Carrying this phone for the week, my overall sort of screen time dropped, and being able to say to myself, hey, that email or that text to a friend can wait until I get back to my digital tasks on my desktop is really mentally freeing. I found myself more present at the dinner table with friends, and the constant smartphone brain fog sort of lifted. It might be overkill for the needs of a dumb phone. And honestly, if you like the idea of a dumb phone and you don't want to spend as much as this, then I do recommend considering the Nokia 3210 at only $90. I'll leave my review of this phone on screen. But yeah, if we look at the iPhone 16E as an iPhone SE replacement or your daily driver phone, honestly, the case isn't nearly as strong, because for literally $200 more, you'll get a ton more functionality in the iPhone 16 with its great ultra-wide camera. You've got MagSafe compatibility and even an extra GPU core. But what's your thoughts on the concept of dumb phones? Is it something you want to embrace, or do you think it's just silly? But if you made it to the end of the video, comment the code word dumbphone and I'll give it a like for watching until the end. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.